I've been listening to one of my favorite songs here. Come on! Yeah! Oh, I love this song. Okay, you know how music, it takes you back to these memories that you have in your mind? Like, you know, have you ever like taken a road trip vacation and you play an album or a song and it's embedded in your memory, and when you hear that song, you just go right back to that road trip? This is what this song is for me. Come on. I can just I'm back. I'm back in my homeland. Woo, man, so good. Come on, it's Toto. If you don't know, I've got some ring. Okay, all right, we'll stop that. We get back to business here. So it's Wednesday. Lots going on. Oh my goodness! I was meeting with our city manager yesterday, talking about some protocols, and it's not looking good, guys, on this COVID stuff. This COVID stuff's not looking good. The numbers seem to be going back up. And now, listen, I know there's somebody listening to me right now who thinks this entire thing is just a conspiracy and it doesn't exist. And if that's you, I love you. God loves you. And you know, we're in this together. The fact of the matter is that hospital beds are starting to fill up, and Uncle Rona hasn't left us. Yeah. And I'm feeling like our governor's about ready to hunker us down again. So, oh my goodness, one of my good friends out in Texas, huge church, 4 locations. They went from having a kind of a studio live audience on a Sunday morning. He just decided a couple days ago to go back to phase 1, online only. That's Texas. These Texans, they're in a whole nother country in and of themselves. They do whatever they want. And even them, they're starting to kind of, you know, kind of take a couple steps backwards. So I think Arizona, same thing. Anyway, okay, listen, don't lose heart. Last week we talked about this. The joy of the Lord is our strength. Our joy is not determined by our circumstances. It's determined by the Lord and the hope that we have in Jesus Christ. Come on, somebody give me a fist bump. Somebody give me a thumbs up. Somebody say amen on YouTube or Facebook. Talk to me, people. What's going on? Let's see who's here. Edgar's back on. Edgar, man, Edgar, if they hunker us down, Edgar, I'm going to have my counselor come back on my midweek, because we're going to need counseling. We're going to need counseling on how to deal with this, okay? Mary Ann is on there. Sherry Redden, nice to see you again, Sherry. Good to have you. Esther, Shahani. By the way, Shahani, I saw you posted something the other day, some music, a hymn maybe from Sri Lanka or something. Man, it blessed me. I didn't know what the words meant, but I listened to the tune and it was amazing. So lots of things going on. Hey, I have a new word. I have a guest today. Oh my goodness, people. I have an amazing guest today on the show. And I'm kind of secretly hoping she's not on yet, so don't worry. I'm kind of secretly hoping that she might kind of maybe eventually become my co-host of this midweek live. I haven't even told her this yet, but I love her to death. She's kind, she's compassionate, she's very gifted. Anyway, we're gonna have a conversation today about race, and we've been talking here about leading well, loving well, listening well, and learning well. So we've laid a foundation. And so now, you know, we got to move from the foundation and we got to get practical with this. We have to learn how to have conversations with one another and learn from one another, particularly as it comes to this issue of racism. So anyway, I'm excited to have her today. But I want you to get situated. So here we go. If you're logging on, let your friends know, share the stream. Come on, listen. You do not want to miss this, okay? Plus, right now, I have a new word. I have a new word to introduce to you. Come on. My buddy turned me on to this word, so I cannot claim that I came up with this word. And he admitted to me this morning that his team didn't come up with this word either. They stole it from somebody else. So I don't know who actually originally came up with this term, but here it is. Are you ready? This is so good. This is so good. This has nothing to do with our topic today, by the way. This is okay. There's two big things going on in our lives. There's this COVID stuff, and then there's just this division in our country, in our families, in our churches. And these two big things. Okay, so here, are you ready for this word? Now listen, I'm just talking church now, okay? I'm talking church. I'm talking the fact of the matter is that everything just changed. We ain't going back to what we had before. So I love you, all you Grace family. If you're listening to me, I love you enough to tell you this. Do not go into denial. Do not put your head in the sand and think that we're going to come back to something like we had before. We won't. It's just the reality. But I have a new word for ministry in 2020. Here it is. Here it is. Are you ready? Are you ready? Fidgetal. Fidgetal. Look at that. Look at that. Fidgetal. Isn't that a great word? Physical and digital. You put them two together and you get fidgetal. Isn't that great? Oh, come on now. You know that's good. You know that's good. Fidgetal. Oh my goodness. That's our new normal. Our new normal is fidgetal. It's the combination of physical and digital. Oh my goodness. You know that's brilliant. You know it is. So whoever came up with that word, kudos to you. Man, you're awesome. But from here on out, I'm just going to say it's out there now. So fidgetal. Say that with me. Fidgetal. You have to kind of be careful how you say it. It kind of sounds like a cuss word if you're not careful. Fidgetal. Physical, digital. This is our new reality. It's just the fact of the matter. That's what we have to do. We're not saying that ministry and the Christian life is all digital. No, 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 no. You are hardwired. I am hardwired to be physically present in community with others. It's a part of the image of God, the Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. It's hardwired in me to be physically present. When God decided to send his son, he didn't send a text message, right? Or virtually come. He physically came in the flesh. This is the doctrine of the incarnation. Jesus, God, demonstrated his love for us, and he came in flesh and bones. So that's the physical part. The digital part, honestly, is probably maybe this global aspect, that this message of Christianity was going to spread around the globe. And boy, aren't you grateful that we have this technology to be able to do this, especially when, continents now, countries, the European Union now shutting us down, saying, no, sorry, you Americans, you ain't coming here. And if you do, plan to stay for 2 weeks in a hotel room. Okay, that's fine. Fidgetal. I had to look at the word again. Fidgetal. We get there digitally. We can proclaim the gospel. We can talk about racial reconciliation. It's better to do it in person over a good meal. Come on now. But we're going to do what God's given us right now, and we're going to use whatever tools God's given us. So there it is. Our new normal, fidgetal. Woo! Pass that on. Text that to your pastor right now and say, hey, this is our new normal, fidgetal. Okay. All right. I got a haircut. Did you see that? My man, last week I had to trim it up. It was too long. It was getting too long. This COVID thing is getting to me. So we gotta trim it up and get nice and slim and trim. Okay. All right. You're situated. I see you're here. I'm going to give you one more chance to shout out to some other people to get them on here. Oh, Pamela, do you know who's on? My daughter Claire. My daughter Claire is on.
Hey, Claire.
I know. Okay, listen, here's my guest. I just let the cat out of the bag. Oh my goodness. Okay, put your hands together for Pamela Elaine, my special guest today. She's amazing. There she is on the screen. Just look at the smile. I mean, it's the
Hello,
smile.
Grace family. Pastor.
It just brings me joy. It brings me joy, Pamela, to see. You know, the other song I was listening to this morning, Pamela, thinking about you, and last week we talked about the joy of the Lord being our strength. I was reflecting on the Easter Sunday that we had, the first Easter Sunday, I think, that you were with us, part of our church family.
Mm-hmm.
And you came out just before we, I think, officially kind of started the service, and you sang one of your singles.
Right.
one of your singles called Joy. I think it's called Joy. Yeah. Yeah.
Pure joy.
Yeah. Pure Joy.
Yes.
So good. I was listening to it again this morning, and it just,
Aw.
it brought joy to me.
Amen.
So,
Very good.
okay. I love you, Pamela. I'm so
Love
grateful you're
you.
here. I miss you. I miss being
Totally
in
miss
worship
all
with
of you.
So, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. Pamela and I talked just briefly before we got on this call about how, conversations about racism between blacks and whites can be awkward. It can be uncomfortable. It doesn't have to be, but it just is.
Right.
And so, Pamela, I just first of all want to say thank you for your courage and your humility in just saying, of course, John, I'm happy to come and have a conversation with you. And I just so appreciate you even doing that, because I recognize that you know me and you have enough of a relationship with me, but you also know the nature of this topic can be difficult to talk about. And so I want you to know, Pamela, first of all, that I love you deeply as a person, for sure, but also as a Black woman, as an African American. I see your color. I'm not one of those that makes the statement, oh, I don't see color. No, I see it. I was fortunate I think and blessed to be born and raised in a different culture where I was the minority color. And so I saw my early years were framed in a different culture context. And I'm really grateful for the blessing and the gift that the Lord gave me in that. But I also just know that that these can be awkward and difficult. So I just thank you for loving me enough to enter into this conversation. And I'm very serious about you becoming my co-host from here on out. Okay. Now you don't respond online to that, because I don't want to put you on the spot.
Oh, really? Well, thank you so much Pastor, just for asking and giving me an opportunity to speak on the topic. And I love you, and I love the Grace family. And I've just been constantly blessed by you guys. And I'm appreciative of the, what is the word? Phygital way that we get to still connect. So thank you.
You're welcome. Now, Pamela, let's do this. Why don't you, not everybody that's in the audience knows you, right? I mean, if they're part of the Grace family, which many of them are, but as you well know, in this new phygital world, there's a lot of people that are tuning in and watching that are a greater part of our community here. They may not go to Grace Church per se.
Right.
This is part of the power of the digital platform, is the gospel can be preached and demonstrated in so many different people's lives that maybe have never even come to a church before. So, right. By the way, we welcome all of you to this conversation today. And I do hope that this will be the beginning of a journey for you, as it is for me, of learning, listening, loving, and leading well in this area. So, Pamela, can you take a minute though and just tell the audience a little bit about yourself, just to kind of familiarize them with kind of who you are. Whatever the Lord brings to your mind, doesn't have to be your whole resume, but I do know you well enough. Don't be too humble. You're very gifted, and God's placed you in just some really, I think, remarkable places to shine His light. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
I'll say I'm blessed to know Christ and have come in contact with the Grace Church, and I was able to join and support the worship team and the congregation there a few years back as a worship leader, as a worship team member, and really just get to know the family there. And so God has blessed me to be able to use my gift of singing and songwriting. I've been able to release a couple of CDs and minister here and abroad in Central Europe and different places, of even Japan at one point. So I haven't been a lot of places, but I've been enough to just understand that just God has created people. We're just all the same. we look different. We have different ways of doing things and perspectives, but we're just all God's children. And I'm excited about the future, even though it'll be a new normal, about how God will want to use me and my gifts in music and any other facet.
Yeah.
So
Hey, if you haven't listened to any of Pamela's things, you should do. You can Google her, you'll find her. It's pretty easy, but some really remarkable songs. And if you only get one song, make sure you get that song "Pure Joy." It'll bless the socks off you. Pamela, tell me.
Thank you.
You've been. Tell us what you're doing right now. Like you're employed. Tell us just a little bit about your journey in terms of your employer and what you're doing.
Well, I work for Walt Disney. I work for the Mouse. I'm not at the park, but I work in a division of HR, and God placed me there, obviously, specifically, and I'm still working because that's a part of the heartbeat of the company. And there's a lot of us that are furloughed. So, I'm praying for those people to be able to, press through this time. And, but I've been working for Disney for 27 years. And so a long time. And so it's been a blessing because, yeah, that's not that common these days.
Yeah.
But right now I am working from home, and I've had cabin fever.
Haven't we all?
A little bit, yeah. But a couple weeks ago, I just decided to just get on a plane and go and went and saw a couple of family members. I was really bold.
Wow,
I said, Lord, I'm going to do it. I did. I was able to take my desk with me and work there.
Yeah.
But it was a nice change of pace. And yeah, so I'm home and I'm back in my space. But it was just nice to have that little shake up.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and well, fortunately, you didn't get stranded in another state, right? Because
exactly.
I think maybe yesterday or day before yesterday, New York was like, "Hey, you coming from California? You hunkered down for 2 weeks."
Right. So yeah, it was good. God really.
That's good. That's good to get out. We had a quick trip to the Grand Canyon as well, my family, and it was just good to kind of get out and kind of mix up the routine a little bit. So.
Absolutely.
So we were all a little bit nervous that the Mouse. We were hoping the Mouse was going to open because the Mouse said he was going to open, and then he had second thoughts.
Exactly, it's going to happen, but it's good wisdom of them to make that choice. So.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, all right. So Pamela, tell me a little bit about just about like growing up in your home. What was okay, I should ask you this. I know you well enough to know this, but I think part of the struggle or the anxiety or the things that kind of get in the way sometimes of having conversations is just language. And I'm always aware that if I'm talking to a person of color, particularly a Black person, I often will just ask, would you prefer that I refer to you as a person of color, as an African American, as a Black person? Like, do you have a preference when you're talking to somebody about these issues? Is one more appropriate than the other? Is one more politically correct than the other? Do you care? Like, how is that received?
That's an interesting question. I mean, no one's asked me before, but it's interesting because no one else. I shouldn't say no one else. No. I don't believe that you are asked that question. No. Put it that way.
Nobody asked, do you want me to call you white or Caucasian? Nobody does that.
Exactly. So it's always, I would have to say that I am not drawn to any of those terms. Maybe Black, if I would put them on a list. But bottom line is, what are you feeling about me? When you say it, do you consider me your equal when you're talking to me or when you're talking about me? And so whichever term that you use is going to be appropriate in that sense.
Okay, that's good, right? That's helpful.
Yeah.
Now, you and I know each other well enough, but I'm just also just trying to lead well, right? And part of this, Pamela, is I've had conversations with, with white friends, and that trips them up. Like it can be a tripping hazard, and
right.
and then they just withdraw because they don't want to offend.
Right. Oh yeah.
And like you said, the fact that we're even talking about the issue is can be somewhat offensive, I think. But at the same time, I appreciate your answer to that, right? Like the issue is not, the issue is, do you consider me to be an equal?
Right.
And do you value me regardless of the color of my skin? So tell me just, now that we got over that hurdle,
right.
Tell me, Pamela, just about growing up in your home. Like, was it diverse? Was it pretty monolithic? How was your mind framed early on?
Whew, wow. I had a couple things I was going to say, but just as you asked that question, something came to my memory, and his name is Michael Michalowski. We were both, when we became friends, we were like 4. And he lived next door to me, and he is a young Caucasian boy.
Is he white or Caucasian?
He was Caucasian. Yeah, exactly. And we were such good friends. I can see pictures in my mind of us playing out in the snow because I was raised in Chicago. And then one day Michael was gone, and I didn't understand. Not only was he gone, but nobody said anything, and he was just gone. And ultimately, when I got a little older, there weren't anybody around me that even looked like him in my neighborhood. And if you add that to the things that would happen, further on down the road, it was an interesting realization. It was like, well, what happened to my friend? He was my only friend actually at that point. Yeah. But I didn't see a difference between us until the neighborhood started to really change.
Yeah. But at that age, though, you didn't see any difference. Have you seen this little clip, Pamela, that's floating around social media of this little, probably like a 1.5, 2-year-old white boy sees a little 1.5, 2-year-old black boy, and their parents are kind of, and these two kids, you see that? They just run in there and they hug, and the caption, people are coming. That's what it should be like.
Yeah, that's exactly what my memory is like when it comes to my friend. And so that was like early on, where you don't really know what's happening, but it does shape you later on.
Yeah. So as you grew up, then, like, just keep running that story, like what you
right. Well, then there's in general, as I'm coming up in the household, just in general, there's beautiful people around me, beautiful African American people, Black people, whatever you want to call us. And there's community, there's the family that lives a couple blocks down the street that sees you do something you shouldn't be doing, that's going to call your mom. There's community. It's beautiful. But the images that I saw around me conflicted and totally contradicted the images that I would see in media or cinema. I would only see Black people criminalized. I would only see those that were doing something that was not right, or those that were unsuccessful or not educated. Those would be the things that I would see on the screen, And so that really messes with your self-image, because now that's superseding, because everybody's watching the screen now, that's superseding what you know that you're a good person. And so now you're driven to be better. I have to be better in everything so that maybe it can wipe out that little, check mark that's on me.
It's almost like because of the media, that almost became for you the kind of the primary influencer
and the standard.
Yeah, the standard. There you go. So then inside of you, there's this, you got to work even harder.
Absolutely. To prove them wrong, whoever they are.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then of course there's just something basic like shopping with my mom. I was a little older, maybe preteen age, because my older sisters were not at home. So me and my mom would shop a lot. And often the stores that we wanted to go to weren't in our neighborhood. They were in a bit better neighborhood with a lighter hue. And we would be followed in the store, you know, and those types of things. I mean, we showed up, you know, doing the same thing that our counterparts were doing in the store, but it still, the experience was different. And if there was gonna be a different experience, we had to establish a relationship with that establishment in order to be trusted, as opposed to being trusted.
Yeah.
Right away.
Okay, so I wanna stop right there.
Yes.
Because this is a very big issue. What you just said is a very big issue,
right?
That we need to just stop and talk about, because I think it's very foreign to a white person.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And so I need you to help me and us collectively, if you're willing to. And we want to listen well. Listen, hey, everybody, listen now. Listen, okay? Don't judge. Don't. I know what's going to happen in the next 5 to 6 minutes. You're gonna want to allow your bias to shut Pamela down. Not physically, because you can't, because we're in a phygital world. So you can't actually mute her. Boom. But your bias, your own personal experience is going to potentially right now prevent you from even listening to what she's about to, and I don't even know what she's going to say. Okay. So, but I'm trying to encourage you right now to just listen. Okay. And listen for understanding, listen for proximity. Remember, we've talked about this. The closer proximity you are, the more likely you are to allow your heart, not your head, your heart, to feel compassion and empathy. So I'm trying to model for you right now and learn myself to not allow my own bias and my own experience cloud my ability to listen right now. Okay, that was a little side trail there, Pamela. Back to you. We need to talk about this because it's so foreign for a white person to hear that when you wake up in the morning or when you're out driving, and I've heard multiple stories from people who I know personally that are Black, the kind of mindset that they have to engage in because of the color of their skin.
Right.
So, and we may or may not get into the policing issues that are part of our culture today. Maybe I'm going to hold that one so you're forced to come back again next week, and then I'll come up with another reason to have you the following week. Actually, in 2 weeks, Pamela, we're going to host the captain of the Glendora Police Department.
Oh, wow, great.
So maybe you can join me for that conversation. That would be a fun conversation to have with him. But it's so foreign, I think, to a white person to hear you say, when we went to that other market that was primarily white. I love how you guys say lighter hue. I have a good friend who always says lighter hue. Great, it's white. And because you were Black, you got crazy kind of funny looks. And so we're going to just sit and listen to you now talk about that experience and the emotions that come with that, because that's foreign to me. I don't have, now, when I was in Africa crossing a border between Uganda and Tanzania, I might have felt a little bit of that. If I don't have a relationship and a deep pocket, right? No, I'm just saying.
Right.
I may or may not make it through these border checks unscathed.
Right.
But that's a different kind of racism. That's a different kind of injustice, I think, than what you're talking about. Okay, just walk us through the grocery store. Walk us through getting pulled over. Walk us through what are those incidents in your life, those moments in your life where this has really been formative in you?
Well, I think that my parents did a pretty good job of shielding the daughters in their household. I have 2 sisters and 3 brothers. And I can only speak for myself. I'm not sure what all my sisters' experiences were, but I would experience subtle racism or just what I thought was favoritism to another person, not necessarily because of race. I just didn't learn that until a little bit later. But I think that my brothers had to be told how to basically walk down the street, how to not just make sure that you look your best, make sure that your clothes are fit in a certain way so that you don't look like a particular type. In other words, don't have your pants hanging off you funny or anything like that, and that's not criminal. It might be sloppy, but it's not criminal. But don't walk around looking like that, and make certain that you are looking a person in the eye when you talk, which are all very good things. But there was this augmented because it needed to be a certain way. And if in fact, even if you were disrespected or treated not well, make sure that you are extra cordial or extra nice, so that you can make it home. Just get home.
Get home.
Right, just get home. So I remember, and this is not long ago, this is not a childhood thing, but it just took me back to my childhood. I was at a strip mall not far from where I live now, maybe 3 years ago. I was coming out of the store and there was a white woman in her car. She might have been in her 60s or 70s. And she saw me, never seen her in my life. And she started to yell at me and she said, "You so-and-so in person." And she says, "You need to go back to Africa, where you came from." That's what she said to me. And of course, when it happened, I'm blown away and I'm like, I want to think of these really terrible things to say. And I know I should. But
well, it shouldn't take you long for some terrible things to come into your mind.
But I'm so blown away. It just came out of nowhere. And so I don't know what I said. It was really brief and it wasn't terrible. It was just, I wanted to check her so bad. So I wanted to give her a lesson in that moment. Not anything hurtful to her, but just to let her know, what do you mean go back? Yeah. So anyway, after that moment, of course, I had all these things I could have said, but but I experience stuff like that all the time where people just feel they feel empowered to say whatever's on their mind in a particular setting because
because of the color of your skin.
Right. And they want to challenge you, to see what'll happen if they do.
Yeah.
So, fortunately, that's not an everyday occurrence, but this is interesting when we talk about people protesting and being upset. I'm not talking about the Black Lives Matter. I'm talking about wearing masks. People are protesting wearing masks. So say that that's something that our governor has said, hey, we need to wear masks. We need to protect each other. And so it's been mandated. So I am going to be law abiding. One, I'm a Christian and that's what the word tells me to do.
Yeah.
But my parents raised me knowing that that's what I need to do, one, and also you need to do it to the letter because you're Black. So I have no problem wearing a mask. I think, hey, if that's what they say I should do it. But I also know that I better not be caught not wearing a mask. As opposed to you being caught not wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Just because that could escalate into something ridiculous just because I wasn't wearing a mask.
Yeah.
So, something that simple.
So Pamela, I think this is just important, particularly for white people, to just sit with and hear and not, not quickly judge and come up with solutions or reasons. I think part of it is just it's such a foreign mindset for somebody
Yeah.
who's white to even live in that umbrella, in that
Of course.
cloud, right?
Right.
And so part of, I think, the challenge is to recognize it for what it is and to have empathy and sympathy for it.
Right.
And I think that's in part what I'm praying for in our conversations, even within the church.
Especially
is to have a sense of sort of compassion, but we have to talk about it so that people can hear it, right? I
Right.
often, on occasion, will talk about having muscular dystrophy. And because I have muscular dystrophy, and I don't in any way, shape, or form, so please don't, any way, shape, or form want to say this is the same as what you just expressed. In a very small, minuscule way, every waking hour that I'm awake, I am aware that I have muscular dystrophy, and I am aware of the limitations that places on me.
Okay.
And it influences my every step. Like in the same way, maybe that you're saying, because I'm Black, I have to think, I have an extra layer that I have to think about when I go to the grocery store, when I get in my car, when I go on vacation, when I go to the airport, if I'm out in public without a mask on, depending on what street I'm at, where I'm at, who I run into. I'm just constantly 100% aware that because of the color of my skin, there is a stronger likelihood that I'm going to be looked upon as lesser than, right? Which is basically the essence of racism. A person in power looking down on, in some way, shape, or form, somebody else. And that's just a constant thing for you.
Right.
This has got to be tiring and exhausting.
That would be a good word. That's for sure.
I'm going to tiptoe into something else. I wasn't planning on doing with this with you today, but I think we should go here for a minute or two.
Okay.
Let's talk about the church. Whew. God be praised.
We need to talk about the church.
We expect racism and bigotry and etc. to exist outside of the church, outside of a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, right? Okay, so the gospel recognizes that you're Black and that I'm white. It recognizes that you're made in the image of God, and you have a unique, wonderful, rich culture, as I do.
Right.
And together we make up this wonderful tapestry that is the body of Christ. I mean, this is the power. This is why the gospel, the church, is the answer, by the way. That's it. I mean, I don't care what kind of policies you guys put together, et cetera, et cetera. There is nothing that's going to solve this issue except for Jesus Christ came to earth, died on a cross, gave his life, shed his blood, was buried in a tomb, resurrected from the tomb so that you and I could be forgiven of our sins, reconciled to God, and then to each other, right? It's the cross. Come on now. I'm preaching, Pamela.
Absolutely. Amen.
Start singing for me. Give me some songs behind me. Come on. All right. Now, but the sad thing, Pamela, is that a lot of times, let's just be honest, it's no different in the church. That racism, and we could, maybe we'll take a session and do some history for everybody, but not today. Let's not go history on them.
Right.
Let's just talk practically in the present, here and now, and maybe you could just talk to us a little bit about what is it? Have you experienced, different forms of racism within the church? Now, listen, let's be honest. I mean, obviously you've been in Grace Church, so that's fine. We're
Okay.
not, we're nothing special. So, but just let's go there for a few minutes.
Well, I would say I had been a member of, when I first came to California, a member of a church here in this area. When I first found the church, I ran across them. Actually, they were having an outreach in the park where I was running. And I was approached. At that time, there were quite a few Black people that were at a table trying to get people to come to the church and whatnot. And so I had been looking for a church home that was closer by. So I did come to the church. But before I received the invitation, the gentleman was talking to me and he was telling me about the 2 services that they have. And he explained it this way. He said, we have a 7 a.m. service. That's the white people.
Oh man.
And a more mature audience, you know. And then at 9 a.m. there was the contemporary service where pretty much the Black people would gather. And so I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, it was just, I hadn't really
framed it up that way.
Yeah, I had experienced that before. I mean, I was raised in a Black church. Period. That was the neighborhood. That was the church. That was the fabric of that community. Mm-hmm. But this church, that's what it was looking like at that time. And I would say that was about 14 years ago. And so I go to both services. I go to 7 a.m. and then I go to the 9 a.m. the next week. And the pastor there, he was very humble. And I was motivated to connect with the church based on the leadership at that time.
Yeah.
And but it was an interesting dynamic because at the time that I came, there was this color change, if you will, that was happening. The neighborhood was changing color. It was like the Michael Michaelowski thing all over again. You know,
for you, like as a child, this is like an adult version of what happened. Like, where'd they go?
Right, exactly. So the church decided, based on that they would merge the services because it's time. You know, of course, it should have always been that way. But they would frame it and say that, oh, it was only that way because people like to worship at different times. But we know that wasn't the deal. So they merged the service. So now it's a 10 a.m. service. And it really did not sit well with the 7 a.m. service. And they were just not having it. They said it was about their music, but that wasn't the case because that was something that was going to be merged as well.
Yeah.
And it's church and we're serving God. So how can that be the main issue? So anyway, those people left the 7 a.m. white service. Most of those people were gone. And a lot of those people were philanthropic. They were, you know, there was a lot of money that came into the church because of those people. So it changed the whole look of the congregation. And it wasn't just that they left, but it was how they left. And they weren't interested in connecting with a whole other part of the congregation. And everyone didn't feel that way. So it wasn't like there was nobody white left at the church. So I would never imply that all of them felt that way because all of them did not.
Yeah.
And some of them, I believe, are still there now. But it was definitely a majority situation where they were just, I'm out of here. This is not how we do it. It's different now, you know. And so it was an interesting dynamic.
But to your point though, it was kind of like your 4-year-old friend all over again,
right?
As an adult. And so Pamela, like that's really important too. You know, when it comes to being in close proximity with people of a different color and tribe and nation and tongue and dress and food and music and you name it, right?
Yeah.
It always requires us to, what it does is it magnifies our preferences, and it magnifies the fact that we're more concerned with our own comfort and our own preferences than we are with loving our neighbor. Like seriously, you know, we deal with these issues, like even this one you just described about music. again, what was more important to them, if in fact, and I don't believe it was, but if in fact they were arguing music, even if music was more important, that tells us something about that event, right? Where music is more, a style is more important to me than being in close proximity with somebody who can teach me something different about God, right?
Right.
So I think this is so important for us as white people in particular to recognize and be aware that getting to know somebody of a different culture and a different color, you're going to have to sacrifice something. You're going to have to give something up, at least suspend it to make room for something else to come into your world. And if you think that everything that you have and believe and see is the best, then you are wrong. Look, can I just say, like, I got chapter and verse for this, people. This is not a trending conversation story. I know, Pamela, like, I've not hesitated, but I've had some long, hard thoughts about how do I lead in this time. And for me, because this is not a trending thing, unless you want to say it trended all the way back in Genesis, then I'm fine. It's been trending since the beginning of time. Well, then we might as well get on.
Exactly.
But this is, we will be better and richer and deeper and wider by going through Samaria, biblically speaking, and engaging in people who don't look like us, speak like us, dress like us, eat like us, whatever us is, be richer for it. But it does require, Pam, doesn't it? It requires a sense of selflessness. I have to think about somebody else more highly than I think about myself.
Absolutely. I mean, clearly that goes against our flesh, on both sides. But I definitely think that it has to be said that as a Black person, I have to, in this climate, in any climate, but be more present. It's more present in my mind that I have to be compassionate to the white person, or the non-Black person, I should say, that they are often unaware of the journey, the history, and all of that. There are some that are very much aware and are driving that force, and they just have hate that drives them. So, however, I can't decide that the one that hates represents the entire race. Nor should a white person decide those things about me, that the person that decided to loot or do something during the protest that was just not good because they were angry, justifiably angry, but their response to their anger is incorrect, whether they would be Black or brown or blue. But I'm not that person. But what connects me and that person is the history, the anger, the come from, the fact that our culture is very how should I say, fragmented, because it was our true roots were taken. So then we kind of try to figure out how to piece it back together as individuals. And then we're in an establishment that was built on a foundation that did not include us. We just weren't a part. We were a piece of property. We might have well have been a piece of furniture. When the Constitution was written, And so we're not going to go back and rewrite the Constitution. I know that. And I do believe that there's policies and things that can be changed and should be. But you're right that it has to be the church that recognizes the compassion has to come from both places. And the church has to be the example. And we're the reason why it's as bad as it is. Because we have been fragmented more than
that's good, Pamela. And I want to go back. I think history matters. When you go to the doctor and you've got an issue, the doctor's going to ask you, well, what's the history? Because in order for the doctor to diagnose and to give you a subscription, they have to know the history. And
Right.
and a lot of white people, when we even talk about slavery, a lot of my friends sort of blow me off and say, well, John, that was a long time ago. And I'm like, dude, no, actually, that wasn't that long ago. I
Right.
sat with somebody last week whose mother, whose aunt or uncle or mother, I think his aunt, was the first Black people ever in Alabama to go to a white school. Like, that's not that long ago, people. So I think, okay, Pam, we have so much to talk about. Oh my goodness. I have so much more here to talk to you about and ask
It's
you
always good.
and to learn. Okay, so we're gonna have to have you back. See how I did that, Pam? You see how I did that?
You're
That was
clever.
smooth, baby. Okay, so but I want to ask you a question from one of our audience members. This
Okay.
is for Pam. They said, what can a non-Black person, so I know, everybody, that there's more than just white and Black, right? There's brown, and etc. So
Right.
please know I have enough of an ethnic IQ to realize that there's other
Right.
colors at play here. But her question is, what can a non-Black person do to make it known to a Black person that you are loved and that Jesus loves you? Like, so I think this is a good question, Pamela. It may seem like really basic to you, but I appreciate that the question's being asked, to be real honest with you.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it's awkward, right? Because you don't want to walk into a restaurant, see a Black person that you don't know, you've never seen before, but you want to love them. So you just walk up there you walk up to them. It can be patronizing. Like, so how do you
Right.
walk me through that? How?
I think that you're right. Someone coming up to you wanting to make a statement out of the blue can be odd and weird.
But you have a neighbor, like, share that story you told me about your neighbor. I think that's a good illustration.
Oh yeah, that neighbor. Well, it's a very good illustration. I have a neighbor. I'm hoping this will help answer the question. I have a neighbor that we have had differences that mostly had to do with being neighbors and close proximity, and and I had just let that go and gave it to God and said, hey, I love him with the love of the Lord. I'll speak to him even if they don't speak to me. And so I kind of put it in that box. And and over the last few months or a couple of months since the protests has been happening and things have just kind of been shaken up when it comes to racism, I got a knock on the door about 3 weeks ago. And typically people don't knock on my door because we have the little gate downstairs with the, phone and all that. But they came up, they've never been at my door before. And so they knocked on the door. And so I say, who is it? And they say their names. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I throw on something really quick and I open the door. Now I know the Holy Spirit was with me because I don't do well with my expressions. They usually just come without me being able to pull them back. And so I didn't have any type of expression except for welcome, which because you can feel it, even though you can't see your face, Right. And so they just said, hey, we just wanted to come up, all the things that are going on. And we just wanted you to know, we're sorry for anything and everything we've ever said that was in conflict. We know we could have done better to interact with you better. And we just want to say we apologize. And they apologized so much that I was feeling guilty because, they were so sorry, And they just said, we just want you to know that we never meant any harm. And, we love you. They said they had been out protesting and they are white, just to be clear. And so then after that, they went down and they got we had talked about being vegan and learning how to cook vegan and things we were doing while we were working from home. And they went downstairs and got some vegan cheese they had made, some homemade chicken broth or whatever, It was just, wow. Okay. So I closed the door and I really just started thanking God because I know that he was answering prayer. And I knew that it was one of the most sincere moments that I had, experienced with them. And the wife of the couple, she was so mean to me before that I would speak to her and say, hey, you look really cute today. And she would act like I didn't say anything. And so that day, she was so unbelievably sweet to me, and it was like sugar was coming off of her mouth. She was just sweet. And so it was great. I was thanking the Lord for that, how he just worked that out. And then I went away and came back from my trip and everything, and I hadn't had a chance to go down and say anything else to them. But today I got a message from them, and they said, hey, we're about to go to Ralph's. Would you like anything? I just want to say hello. And I'm thinking, because, in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't want to make this too casual. They might have just been feeling guilty that day. So now I'm discounting what got it done, right? Think, well, how do I approach them? Because because it's uncomfortable. And so when they sent that message, it was just like, Lord God, thank you. Because that was just like, hey, we just want to make sure that, we really do, feel this way. And so I would say to the person that wants to just show love, I would think that you would just be the same that you are with those people, with people in general. If you get an opportunity to share a smile or offer some information or advice, do it if you feel motivated or if God moves you to do so. Yes, but I wouldn't necessarily feel like you need to get a bullhorn and tell everybody you love Black people,
No, but that's good. But I think inside of some people, though, Pamela, there's a desire to want to do something, right?
I know. I get it. I totally understand that.
I think that's where the question is coming from. And I love your answer. Like, be yourself, be full of Jesus to everybody. But right now, if God presents an opportunity, and then you should take it. You should take it. And
I think the word is, as you're talking, is to be intentional in this climate.
Yeah.
Just so that you can develop a practice of, hey, we're all the same.
Yeah.
And because even if you aren't overtly racist and you don't hate anyone in your heart, there's so many images and there's so much that's been set in place that even your responses to things may be racist and you don't even know it.
Yeah.
You just don't even know it,
Yeah. Okay. Pamela, I feel like
heavy.
I feel like all we've done is we've taken one chip and we've just dipped it in one little piece of salsa. That's all we've done. But it's been good. But it's been good. It's been helpful. And I want to say this to you. I really, and I mean this, you know this about me. I mean this so genuinely. I had a moment yesterday, 2 days ago, where somebody invited me to something. And I thought to myself, this is going to be this. I don't know if I should say this. Like this, we're in a phygital world. I'm not sure I should say this.
Right.
But I had this prideful moment in me. Like, who are you to invite me to that when you haven't participated in anything the last 20 years I've been here?
Okay.
And you know what the Lord did to me in that moment? He said, that's how your African-American friends feel. So I want to say to you,
right.
You are being kind and gracious to even have the conversation with me, to be real honest with you. And I'm so grateful for that. I really am. And I know that that's difficult because really, to a certain extent, I don't deserve it. And so your graciousness to help us listen, learn, love, and lead. This is a gift that God has given to me, and I'm really grateful for you, Pam. So
He's gifted us.
Listen, I don't know that you really have a choice as to whether or not you're coming back, because let me say this, like online, I've been watching the Facebook feed while we've been talking. Everybody's like, Pam, I love you. Pam, I love you. Pam, I love you. John, get out of the way. Just let Pam speak. John, why don't you just let her take the whole thing? So you can still serve the mouse, but but be involved, you know, with me. So everybody just loves you, Pam, and we love you.
Oh, I love them too. Thank God for the lunch hour, huh?
Yeah. So I'm going to get you back. I know that. Now listen, Pam, I know this might not be appropriate. I'm just going to be honest with you. So I don't want you to be offended at this.
Okay.
I'm just telling you in advance that to not be offended. But
okay.
Our time is up, but we're gonna fade off this show with a song.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I know this is gonna make a trivial of what happened to you in the parking lot, and I don't mean it that way at all, okay? Because that was really offensive for somebody to tell you to go back to Africa. Like, seriously?
Right.
That's just somebody who's like, they're so extreme. So don't take this the wrong way, but if somebody told me to go back to Africa, I would go. I know. Don't be offended by that, Pam. Don't be offended.
Oh.
I was born and raised in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So let me just say this, Pam. Let me say this. When the rains of Africa call, come on now. Come on. There it is.
Oh, wow. You brought that full circle.
Hey, boy, she's waiting there for you. All right. I love you, Pam. I love you, everybody. Come on, put your hands together for Pamela Elaine.
Bye.
Coming back to midweek next week. Next week, she's coming back to midweek. All right. Adios.
Love you. Bye.